I created the Fireball Run television series, which is kind of like Amazon's version of Amazing Race, only smarter. The show wrapped its 11th season. We bought a movie ranch. I was friends with Sir Roger Moore. The history of the property is in the 70s, it was owned by a drug lord. I raced in Brock Yates's, and so I raced in his one lap of America. We were caught off guard. I'm reading all this stuff. Our military's caught off guard by da-da-da. We're not caught off guard by this stuff, man. China's got nothing on the stuff that we got. I'm telling you, we're so far advanced, it's ridiculous. I have what I would say is a quantifiable group of friends who are astronauts.
You have a movie studio.
Yeah.
Scaramanga.
Oh, that's the movie ranch, yeah. And then on property, we have stuff. Scaramanga. Francisco Scaramanga, the man with the golden gun.
Connected to the ranch where all this Rust Baldwin stuff.
But then they're scrambling for money, and this magic suitcase is supposed to be driven here, even though the sparks are flying right into you and burning you out. He's like, that's not going to kill you. Stop being a baby.
How do you want to be addressed here or introduced here?
Just Jay. Jay's fine. JJ came from when I was in the Cannonball events, and that nickname came. My name is always Jay Sanchez, but when I did the Cannonball events with Brock Yates, we looked very overhyped, like movie, and so folks there on the track nicknamed me JJ McClure, which is the Burt Reynolds character from Cannonball Run, and so racers were calling me JJ. And then when I was doing the television series, a few of them were in the show, and they'd call me JJ, and then everybody started calling me JJ. But at first, it was a way that I could distinguish between my racing friends and others.
No relation to JJ Walker.
No, I'm much too blanco for that.
And did you say Sanchez?
Yes, Sanchez. Yeah, that's Spanish pronunciation. I'm Castilian.
So that's like the uppity Spain.
Yeah, it's the uppity Spain. Can't you tell? I'm white as a sheet. It's funny. People look at me and they're like, oh, you're kind of white. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm Spanish. Oh, I thought most Spanish people were dark. I was like, have you been to Spain? We're not Mexican. Not that there's anything wrong with being Mexican, but now my family's 13th generation New Mexicans. So we're one generation off of finding this place. Santa Fe, New Mexico is the oldest capital in the United States. Oldest capital. And everybody goes, oh, Pittsburgh or whatever. You know what I mean? And Washington.
I'm in Florida, so I'm thinking St. Augustine, the oldest city, but you're saying oldest capital. I got it. Okay.
We're the oldest capital, and that's because it was a capital for Spain long before the whole United States stuff. So the oldest capital in the United States is Santa Fe. A lot of history out here. So when is Jimmy Fallon coming on? Because I thought you were the warm-up act. No Jimmy Fallon. I'm like wondering, how'd this get booked? I thought I was doing a favor.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars. If they're bigwigs, we'll have them on the show. And yes, we'll talk about cars and everything else. Here he is now, Jeff Stearns.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars with my good longtime friend Jay Sanchez, not to be mistaken with a commoner Sanchez, the producer of the 11-season Fireball Run that was on Amazon. Am I right that you were 11 seasons?
Correct. It was on Amazon.
And you did a lot of other things that we'll get into here, but I can't put it into the introduction.
I started as in the visual effects industry and owned a visual effects company, and then I owned a global advertising and PR company. And then when I decided to retire from that, I said I'd made enough money to lose it back in the film industry, so I became a television producer. And I created the Fireball Run television series, which is kind of like Amazon's version of Amazing Race, only smarter than Amazing Race. Real dumb show. Ours was a real sophisticated show, but and that's what I've done since, right? So the show wrapped its 11th season in 2018, I believe. And then I took a little sabbatical. We were headquartered at Universal Studios, Florida. And then but after 11 seasons as a showrunner, which is unusual. Usually a showrunner burns out after 3 seasons. Showrunner is the actual real executive producer, the one who actually runs the show, right? The burnout is usually 3 seasons. I was held on for 11. And then I told the folks at Amazon that if they asked me to do another one, I'm going to jump here out of my window at Universal Studios. And so they backed off. And I ended up relocating everything and a few people to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we bought a movie ranch, Scaramanga Ranch. And we named it Scaramanga. I was friends with Sir Roger Moore. I wanted to name, when I bought the ranch, we have our own canyon. It's one of 5 privately owned canyons in the state. Super cool. That's why people come here to film, although we're building sets now too, a little town set. But because Sir Roger Moore was a good friend, and I wanted to name everything on property after a Bond thing. So the canyon is now known as High Fat Canyon. It's Goodnight's Gulch, and all the parts of the property here are named after Bond things. And the history of the property is in the 70s, it was owned by a drug lord. And they were growing marijuana out of the canyon until as I was told, till the helicopters got him. When the sheriff started using his helicopter. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to name it after Francisco Scaramanga, the man with the golden gun, because he was a drug lord. So that's how it got named that. But, when I created Fireball Run and everything, I was, many people might not know this. So I raced in Brock Yates's, for those people who don't know who Brock Yates is, he was a legendary automotive journalist for Car and Driver and the creator of the original Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Dash race, which ran 4 times. And so I raced in his one lap of America because somebody connected me to get in, and me and him hit it off, and I was actually brought in to bring the movie back. After I raced once there, and then Brock found out a little bit behind the scenes about me. He called me up and he says, "Hey, Jaybird, I want you to come up to the estate and let's talk about getting this movie back together, because you're a young guy." At the time, I was a young guy. You're a young guy, you got the connections, because nothing's happening on this thing. And I got it the closest. I'll be honest with you, man. We had everybody on board. Hal Needham, Al Ruddy, Brock. These are all the producers, right? And Raymond Chow from Golden Harvest. And at the time, Raymond Chow was probably 200 years old. Lord knows the man's still alive today. But nobody had gotten these guys back together. In the 70s, nobody knows. These contracts were written so loosely, right? Nobody knows who really controls it. Ruddy, who produced The Godfather, thinks he controls it. Hal thought he controlled. I got all these guys together for a private party at my house in Winter Park, Florida, and didn't tell any of them that I brought the other ones. And I got to tell you, we had Terry Bollea there, Hulk Hogan and a few others. And it was so fun. And we screened the movie in my home theater. I had a home theater that looked like a movie theater. And we screened the movie. Pammy, his wife, Brock's wife, is like, "Oh my God, Jay, he has not seen this since like 1982. And we screened it. Hal's talking about it. Brock's talking about. Brock's like, "That goddamn Martin there, he really drinking that shit. That's real alcohol right there." And we're just cracking up. They're telling me about Sir Roger. Pammy's like, that's Brock's wife. Pammy's like, "Oh my God, dirtiest mouth on the planet. That guy had a dirty joke every 2 seconds." But it was super cool because I had stunt drivers there and all these friends from the industry. Everybody is so jam-packed. You got to see the photo. Jam-packed in here, listening to what would be a DVD, the DVD narration in real time happening while these guys are talking about all this shit that really went down. And we got it there. I got to tell you, for whatever animosity was between those guys for all those years, it totally melted away. They were all like kids again, all in love with each other, all like, "Let's do this, da-da-da-da-da." And the only one who didn't come was Raymond Chow, right? And Golden Harvest, big company, and Raymond Chow's a, bazillionaire. And at the time, I think, like you say, he was must have been 200 years old at that time. We had everybody on board, including Raymond. And then right when it came down to the final signing, I get a phone call from Raymond's people, and they said, "Jay, Raymond respects you very much, and he thinks you'd be great," and da-da-da, the whole pounding it on because you're going to get dropped off a cliff. But he says it's going to be a pass. And that was the end of that, right? So since that, I'm going to tell you right now, for anybody who even knows what Cannonball Run is, that movie will never get remade. Will not. Okay. Brock's now passed away. Hal's passed away. Al Ruddy's on his last leg. Again, Raymond Chow still powers through at 300 years old. But what happens is these contracts are so loosely written in the 70s. Anytime anybody breathes doing a Cannonball film, the lawsuits happen and it goes nowhere. And so the last one was, I think, 2013, Al Ruddy said, we're going to do a Cannonball, and it got so watered down. We're going to do it in Europe because nobody in the United States would have anything to do with the movie, and they need to underwrite it with brands. But I was like, and everybody called me. Oh my God, did you see the press announcement? I said, I'm going to tell you what, I'll believe it when I see it. Never happened.
Well, you know that it won't. But a thing that you got to feel good about is these guys that had issues with each other, when they're from a distance, they're able to carry it around and let the other guy make the first move or create their own story about what's wrong with the other guy. But when you didn't tell the others that who else was going to be there when you were inviting them, then now we're here.
Well, it's like high school. It's like high school, right? You only remember the good parts. When they got back together and they're watching that movie, it hit them how cool it was. And they wanted to do it again. And we were so close. And then when Raymond did that, there's no way to do it. I mean, you got to have everybody on board or somebody's going to sue, and nobody wants to take that on. And so I told Brock, when that happened, I said, Brock, what if we look at it a little bit different? What if we did something where the movie was inspired from the real event? Why don't we create a product inspired from the movie? And I said, and we'll call it, whatever. And Brock was like, Jaybird, anything you want to do, I'm right behind you because this is never going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And it was Tom. Okay. So we created this concept of this quasi-reality show, even though everything's authentic. Okay. Not like Amazing Race where it's all staged. Literally an Amazing Race. They tell them, okay, get out of the car and run to the cliff. And then, no, do it again. Only, this time, throw a purse at your wife and call her a whore. Right? That they're called produced. All reality is that way. Ours was more like docutainment, right? Because we didn't, I mean, the shit that went down on our show really actually went down. It's hilarious. So we struggled though for like 6 months trying to come up with a name, right? And Brock was co-producer and we couldn't come up with anything. I finally told a few friends in Florida. Do you know who do you remember Monty Patterson?
Very well, yeah.
Yeah, Monty was like my mentor, man. I love that man. I'm so sorry that he had passed away. I love that man, like another father that guy was to me. And Monty and Tom LaPointe and David Hickman, who was the president of my ad agency, and I said, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go downtown Orlando. I forgot what this eatery was, but it was a hot wings place. We're going to order hot wings and get fucking wasted. But we are not leaving here until we come up with a name. And let me tell you, Tom came in with a book of NASCAR legends, right? So we're all talking. We're at this point, we're probably 3 sheets to the wind because we're still trying to come up with a name. And Tom opens that book up and goes, hey, did you know there was a NASCAR legend named Fireball Roberts? And I'm like, get the what? His name was Fireball? I mean, sounds like Cannonball. And of course, Cannonball
got ball in it.
Yeah, and hey, right. And Brock named Cannonball after Cannonball Baker. I'm like, okay, we named ours after Fireball Roberts, and we're in. And then I said, nobody talks until we get the registered trademarks cleared, because I don't need, 20th Century Fox on my ass. And they've never peeped. They never peeped on the show, even though we're clearly a spinoff of some sorts, right? But now we're actually trying to produce a movie based on Fireball Run series. But, basically it's the Cannonball Run movie nobody can produce with all these wacky characters and antics. But it's scripted, right? But it kind of plays on the same thing. So we're able to bring it back that nobody can bring back. But that's one movie everybody wants to see, Cannonball Run. It's just never going to happen, man. It's never going to happen. If I died tomorrow, Jeff, I literally tell folks, I cannot complain. I would not, if I died tomorrow, if I knew it was going to happen, it just would. I am very lucky and honored and privileged and humbled to have lived so many lives. I was in the Air Force. I was in Desert Storm. I was in the visual effects business, deal with MTV for, I owned a little sign company and they asked if I do props. And of course I lied my ass off to MTV. Yeah, I'm doing prop right now. I'm the prop king. Tricked them into doing business with me. And after that, I was in the visual effects industry. There were no more signs. We went from a 300 square foot facility to like 50,000 square feet and 45 people. Mind you, I was still active duty Air Force at the time. And then after Hurricane Opal flattened Destin, Florida, I said, you know what? My uncle, who was the chief of police in Lakeland, Florida, I said, why don't you come out here and see da-da-da? And I said, no, let me see. I thought it looked good on paper, right? You're right between Tampa and Orlando and this place called Lakeland. And that turned out to be a really horrible idea to move a company there because nobody thought you were creative. What the hell are you doing in Lakeland? Okay, but I got to ask something. Okay, look, okay. That car is bothering me that's in the scene. It looks super cool. Right.
What is it?
The car to your right. Yeah, that big one.
This?
Yeah, what is that? Is that a model or what is it?
This is a 1953 Nash plaster showroom model.
Oh, that is cool.
And it was in my dad's office in his car lot.
Right, Promenade. Got it.
That my dad opened his lot in 1965 when he resigned Capitol Records while my mom was pregnant with me because a buddy of his had a car lot and he saw he was driving a 65 Eldorado and he's like, how did you afford that? He goes, I opened a car lot. So, but his inventory was $2,000 for the whole thing.
Nash, you don't hear about those. I mean, very much.
My dad promoted.
So this stuff's always been in your blood, shyster.
Before he resigned, he promoted Meet the Beatles. And brought Meet the Beatles.
Whoa. This just went a whole different direction. He was a car dealer and then what?
No. My dad was a record promoter for Capitol Records for the Midwest.
Oh my God, that is so freaking cool.
So that idea meant getting it on the radio, getting it on the end caps in the record stores, whatever. I'm just saying. But which big deal, I mean.
I'm good friends with Mitch Davis, with Mitch Davis, which is the son of Clive Davis. And we're good friends. But that's super cool, man.
Well, so he just does Meet the Beatles, gets all the awards for that. He didn't love the Beatles. He thought, I had a whole bunch of bands I like better than them, but that was his assignment.
Right.
And his buddy pulls up in a new, and I'm not exactly, my dad lost my dad 10 years ago, but I think, give or take, 65 Eldorado. Remember, my dad said triple white Eldorado convertible. And he said, how did you buy that? And his buddy said, I opened a car lot. So my dad quit while my mom was pregnant with me from Capitol Records and opened a car lot. Just a used car lot.
That's awesome.
Very cool classic stuff. I grew up around all that, but he loaned cars to the city of Detroit for 4th of July parades and all that business. We'd ride in the back of the rumble seat Model A or whatever in the 4th of July parade. And then in the race riots in Detroit, his first lot, everything got burned in Kenosha of Detroit.
Well, clearly nothing's changed over the years.
During a peaceful protest in Detroit when everything got burned and all the glass got smashed.
Peaceful protest, not a riot, unless it's the state capitol. Then that's definitely a riot. It's not a protest.
We're together on that. So, right, and like walking in between the ropes. So, but don't mind this car burning over here. It's Summer of Love. So, anyway. All the property burned on either side of him. My dad didn't get $1 damage. He doesn't know for sure, but on the garage behind him, in his garage behind it, he had an apartment above it that he rented to 2 black prostitutes.
Because why not? Everybody's got to have a place to live.
So he thinks he never knew that they put some mark out there or anyway, not a broken nothing. Anyway, after the riots, he moved to another part, but I'm a little bit of a car guy. My grandpa was a designer for Ford and Dearborn. My other grandpa was a tool and die guy for the business, and my stepdad designed assembly line equipment.
That's freaking amazing. That's like a lot of stuff I didn't know about you. Like, you are really dialed into the automotive industry. I'm fake automotive industry. I don't know. Somebody told me, hey, I can get you in a Brock Yates' event. And I said, yeah, sure, that'd be awesome. And then I had to go to racing school and all this shit, and came in 95th out of 98 people with 4 of them breaking down. You know?
Speaking of Brock Yates, my 19-year-old son is however old. I'm feeding him with a bottle, still drinking out of a bottle. I'm sitting on the couch reading Cannonball by Brock Yates. I'd mentioned I sold some cars to Gil Nickel of Far Niente Winery. So when I'm reading the book, I see, and Gil Nickel in the 74 SL or SEL or whatever he was in came in second or third or something like that. So I'm reading that, and I'm like, oh, my God, I sold this guy a couple of cars. So I ring him, and he answers the phone, and it's funny. When you're their exotic car guy, surgeons, businessmen, they'll always get interrupted. Dr. Jones' office. This is Jeff. From where? Dimmitt, Rolls-Royce and Bentley. Oh, he said to interrupt him if you call. And he'd come in. He's like, I'm in surgery. What do you got? So whenever it's about their car. So Gil Nickel answers. He's like, hi, Jeff. I'm in a meeting. I'm really sorry. Did you find that car yet? And that he's looking for or whatever. And I says, no, I'm reading Brock Yates' book and you're mentioned in it. He's like, hang on. So he walks out of the meeting and he's in the hallway, and now he starts explaining.
So he walks out in the middle of a heart surgery. He says, I got to take this.
Well, this isn't the doctor. This is the vintner, Far Niente Winery. Okay. But still, you know. So, and I don't drink. So after the deal, he sends me a case of.
Well, that's your fault.
Exactly. He sends me a case of half red, half white wine. And I'm giving it away to the lawn guy and the paper boy and the garbage guys like, Merry Christmas. And then a buddy comes over. He's like, that shit's like $200 a bottle.
Yeah, I've been there.
And this was like 20 years ago. All right. So anyway, so he comes out and he goes, and I would have won. So he breaks his whole meeting and he's telling me now how he would have won the Cannonball if, I don't even remember what malady occurred, or, you know, I don't remember. So anyway, whenever you say Brock Yates, I can't ever help but think about the late, you know, we lost him, Gil Nickel, who was in the race. So, but Albuquerque, I didn't end up there because I wanted to travel to Albuquerque.
Nope. Exactly.
30 years ago, I dated a girl from there and went to visit. I was with her a couple of years, so went with her to visit her parents in Albuquerque. And quite literally, I just spoke to her the other day. She was out in L.A. for a long time, and she just moved back to Albuquerque because her folks are old. She's moved 3 doors down to help them, and she hates Albuquerque, but God bless her to want to be around her parents.
Everybody hates Albuquerque. It's a crime fest.
But I'm going to do a podcast with her dad, who was a Korean War vet pilot captured and has never been willing to talk about it at all his entire life, and he's going to do it with me starting next week. We're going to do a couple of recordings.
Let me tell you, man, these guys, man, my grandfather was he's a prisoner of war of the Japanese for 4.5 years. He was in the Bataan Death March. So there's a big statue of him here in a little hometown, because out of 340 people that left from the community that were in the Bataan Death March, he was the only survivor. He has since, of course, passed. But being a veteran myself, Air Force, was an F-15 crew chief, and then being a storyteller in film and television, man, I'm telling you, I go to the VA, and if I see one of these guys with the WW2 hats, I have to ask them their story. I have to ask them their story, because it's just, you can learn so much, and these guys are like unsung freaking heroes. The Vietnam vets, I mean, that thing was just a goddamn disaster. You know, we can't win when you're given a bunch of rules, and you know, I don't know what the hell that was all about. Of course, that wasn't my time. I grew up in the 80s, so I'm 49. I used to, for the past 5 years, I've been celebrating Still Not 50. And that all comes to an end in January. So, like, I'm really wrestling with the fact that I'm going to be 50 years old. That's like crazy.
Well, I didn't like my 30th birthday, but 50 sucks. I'm 56.
56. Oh, my God. Oh, God. They write you off at that. Then the AARP comes in and all.
I will not open AARP mail. I will not open AARP.
They're sending it to me already. But, you know, I have a huge, even though I was only in for 6 years, right? But it just wasn't my calling. Business was my calling, and I've always been a business guy, so I've always worked for myself. But it's funny, my buddies from that era, they treat me like I've been in for 20 years with them. It's that kind of connectivity and closeness. They've come out and visited me here at the ranch, and you know, I'm like, guys, you know, I'm like, you guys lived like a whole term of career with different people and stuff like this. But for some reason, these formative years in Eglin Air Force Base and test mission during Desert Storm, it's kind of like a formative year and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, man, these old guys, these old timers that really did Desert Storm and anything after that is not fucking war. Not like those guys had.
No.
Those guys were really, really in war. Now it's all technological warfare and quackity quack. And, you know, we're trying to be surgical, which I think is a horrible mistake. Very much so with a lot of these generals that are like, they don't believe in surgical war. Because in Star Trek, back in the classic days of Star Trek, did a great episode about this, right? When they had a couple of aliens that nobody actually died. It was just the troops that died. It was all digital warfare. And if you got something in, then we'd whack out. And then those 50 people got to die. But the deterrent to war is war itself, right? That's what won World War II is that, you know, and people get upset by that, you know, the bombing of Nagasaki and all that.
Well, so many countries having to rebuild from England to France.
Yeah, but you know what? The deterrent to war was extinction, right? Otherwise, the Japanese were not going to stop. My grandfather was a prisoner of war, and they were not good at all to our troops, at all. And nobody likes to talk about it, but at all, right? My grandfather, they had a big ceremony for him when they put that statue up when I was like 14 and stuff like this. And they're like, "You're a war hero." And he said, "No, I'm not a hero. I'm just lucky." He said, "I'm just totally lucky." He used to talk about they'd be out there on the onion fields hoeing, right? He said, and then he says that Japanese general or commander would come out drunk as shit and just start shooting at fucking killing people. He said, and heaven forbid, your buddy drops right next to you. Don't even fucking blink. You just keep hoeing. He'd say, you just keep hoeing because you'll be next. If you catch their attention, you'll be next. He says, so it was total luck. He says, total luck. You know, he got out because he escaped because he pretended like he was dead and they threw him on top of the dead bodies. And then he stayed there for like, I don't know, like a week with dead bodies in the pit until he felt that he could climb out and escape. And then, but you know, people don't get it, man. War is real, right? But this surgical war stuff, it just keeps perpetuating it all, right? We stayed in Afghanistan forever, all these things. There has to be casualties.
There's not as much consequence.
There's no consequence. And again, the deterrent to war is war itself. If you don't feel there's a consequence to it, it goes on forever. But, you know, I was in Desert Storm, and that was a technology where I was in the not Space Command. I was in Air Force Test Command, which dealt with the weapons that shouldn't even be introduced for 40 years, you know, and we're dealing with stuff that shouldn't even be tested for 40 years, and we're running it through now because it was a convenient way to use this stuff. We're so advanced, it's ridiculous. I know I'm reading all over the internet now that China sent some kind of supersonic something or another aircraft or a missile that went around the world and it detonated somewhere, and we're caught off guard. I'm reading all this stuff. Our military's caught off guard by da-da-da. We're not caught off guard by that stuff, man. China's got nothing on the stuff that we got. I'm telling you, we're so far advanced, it's ridiculous. And the only, you know, folks will say, well, why don't we use it? And I tell them, let me tell you what happens. If we actually used the weapons we really had, the whole world would start coming apart. They will freak out. We are so beyond. So
you know what you know about how beyond we are in weaponry. And this is a serious question, and I don't know if you know or don't know.
Aliens are real.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Any of this technology in your opinion or knowledge, because you're out there, meaning you're geographically, I mean, you're out there, but you're geographically out there, and you have some knowledge about military. Do you think any of this is technology borrowed or stolen?
One, I think people do not give human ingenuity nearly enough credit. Okay. And I'm just going to I'll define it like this. The difference between us going to the moon and flying from the first time ever from being anything that was an aircraft that existed in the world is only 50 years. 50 years from when we first took flight to we're landing on the damn moon. Think about it in just our time, Jeff. We're around the same age. You know, I remember when remote control was me for a television, right? Dad, go change the UHF, VHF, and da-da-da-da-da, and then look where we're at now. I mean, it's surreal. So I think, one, people don't give, you know, I watch these shows, they're hilarious, alien and whatever, astronauts or whatever it's called. Did the aliens built the pyramids and da-da-da. And I'm like, man, you give people enough time, like eons, and we'll just overachieve. I mean, that's how we are. That being said,
well, that's just lots of Jews.
That being said, I have what I would say is a quantifiable group of friends who are astronauts. When we were all hanging out one time, you know, I thought, look at me, I'm going to use this as an opportunity, and I'm going to ask, da-da-da-da-da. And when I asked, remember, we were in the confines, just us, right? Private conversation. And they went with the same, you know, oh, Jay, with like 1 billion worlds, we'd be kind of naive to think. I'm like, don't give me that shit. What the hell's going on? Come on, guys. I really tried. We're getting on the ground. I'm military. We getting on the ground level, right? Okay. So here's the thing about military people. What they don't say is what they intend to say. And when we got out of that conversation, I was like, okay. So my belief is we are engaging stuff like that. I will say I never really saw anything like that in what I did in the Air Force. The stuff that we had was just beyond. But in the Air Force, everything's very compartmentalized, right? So that nobody knows what the hell is going on. Nobody knows the complete story. The president doesn't have to be appraised. Most people don't really get that the military and our government are very distinct.
I wouldn't get that. I wouldn't have gotten that. Okay.
Congress doesn't need to know. The president doesn't need to know. We can literally greenlight anything in our imagination for however much it is with no oversight and no need to seek permission. And this part I didn't understand, but in test mission, this was like the definitive. But so long as it wasn't more than 11 units, I don't ask me why it was 11. I don't know. But after 11 units, if they wanted to buy something, they needed congressional approval. So let me take you through something with Desert Storm. So remember 1990, the stealth fighter debuts, right? This Black Diamond, the most technologically advanced, and it came out, and we're going to use it in Desert Storm, and America was like, damn, let's shoot them up, man. We're using the best technology, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so, and it looked like we had a fleet of these things. We didn't. We had 11 of them. Okay, we had 11 of them. And they would just repaint the tail numbers and leverage it on camera, right? And look, here's the thing. When you want more than your 11 allotment, you need congressional approval. Well, when America's behind you going, yeah, look, new technology, blah, 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 right? And Congress will pencil whip anything as long as the people are behind it. And so that's how we got more. But without saying, this is out there. So I'm not saying something that's like top secret. Okay. It's out there if you look for it. But this is because I can't talk about a lot of stuff I was doing. But I will tell you this. So stealth fighter, we saw it in 1990, right? This Black Diamond, blah, 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 right? Okay. Jeff, work with me. When you think that aircraft's maiden voyage took place? Pick a year.
You didn't say work with you like I'm going to have to guess.
Yeah, guess. Take a guess. Look, we saw it in 1990. It was our newest technology. Everybody, let's just fuck everybody up with this thing. Okay, guess when it took its maiden voyage?
5 years before.
Yeah, no. 1956.
Oh, I would have never. You could have given me 10 guesses. Okay.
1956.
Really?
Okay, at a Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. Now, if you were in New Mexico working on your farm and you saw in 1956 and you saw a black diamond fly through the sky, guess what you'd call it? UFO. So that's what 90%, I fully believe 90%, 95% is just our advanced technology. Yeah, it's our advanced technology. In fact, where all the hotspots for UFOs sightings, right? If you look into it, there is a test base around there, right? So we're testing different things and stuff like that. But, you know, far be it for me to sound like a conspiracy theorist, because I'm really not. But, you know, you take into account your friends and you go, something's going on. But 95% of it is our own advanced military. The other tech, I don't know. The astronauts really did it for me. They really did it for me. And they're not allowed to talk. You know, they're not allowed to talk about UFOs. It's like they're not actually allowed to. So when somebody brings it up, they have to do the whole, well, with billions of planets out there, we would be naive to think da da da. They literally are barred from even talking about that stuff.
Okay, so the fact that they can't talk about it if there was nothing to not talk about, got it. Okay.
Yeah, weird.
You have a movie studio.
Yeah.
Scaramanga.
Oh, that's the movie ranch, yeah. And then on property, we have stuff. Scaramanga. Francisco Scaramanga, the man with the golden gun.
Connected to the ranch where all this Rust Baldwin stuff.
The Rust thing, yeah, that's it. That happened at Bonanza Creek. I'm Gene Hughes, who was the owner, a dear friend of mine. I love to say this lady was 86 years old, right? Skinny as a rail, beehive, haircut, and gray hair that was twice her size. To say I was in love with this woman, I was in love with her, right? She really took me in under her wing and was showing me how to do the whole movie ranch stuff. We'd have midnight pizza once a month over at her place. She's just a godly, wonderful person who like knew everybody on the, like Ron Howard. She'd call him Ronnie. Oh, Ronnie was here, blah, blah, blah. They all loved this lady. She's got the largest movie ranch and most historic in New Mexico. It's 2,500 acres, Bonanza Creek. It's got like 7 independent sets, and it's fantastic. We're small by all comparison. We're only 25 acres, but we own a canyon that nobody else owns, right? But wonderful people. Imogene sadly passed away 2 weeks prior to this incident with the Alec Baldwin incident. And, in the end of the day, I'm going like...
Sadly, I mean, thank God she missed it.
Yeah, because I don't think she'd have handled it very well. I mean, they've been in the business for over 60 years in the movie ranch business and never had an incident, right? Never. But then this happens, right? And I did a bunch of streaming interviews for folks, that, because we're close to it, and they'd find out I'm a producer. What are my thoughts? All things being true, and of course that's what we're finding out is all things are true, right? There can be no better poster child for gross negligence than this film. I mean, Jeff, you may know this, maybe not. So legally speaking, right, in legal terms, the two hardest things to prove in court, okay? So when people go, I'm going to sue you for fraud, blah, 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 you hear that a lot, right? Well, good luck. Fraud is one of the hardest things you can sue for. That's like, it is a high threshold to prove fraud. The other one is gross negligence, and that's a legal term. Not just negligence, willful negligence, anything like gross negligence. That means like you literally had to know better, and we've proven it, right? This film, and I know from insiders, because of course we're in one big happy film industry here, right? This thing was the poster child for this thing. It was just bad from day one. Lackadaisy, sketchy on the investment, this 501c3 type investments that are now like all the rage in Hollywood, which are really just a write-off, right, for people who want to maximize an investment. Right? The Jews got it. They got it down. Jews got it down. That's why they make well in film. They got it down. I invest in 10, only need to hit on 1. But I'm going to literally watch 9 investments burn up like a hot wing, right? But this new 501c3 investment in film, which is this new way of people being able to put money into film, right, so that they can basically take it so that it's not taxed and all this sort of stuff.
So this is using a charity entity or shell?
Yeah, using a charity type entity, which I find anytime you get, I won't touch anything that even breathes charity, right? Because people manipulate that all the time. And if you do get caught, you're going to go to jail, right? But this film was done that way, right? So it's a whatever $2.5 million film, which really means it's $2 million. Okay. 500,000 is burned off to producers, right? But this thing, these guys, boy, they literally did not, they hired the worst people, the cheapest people. Their film crew walks off that morning. Thank God for those folks, right? They literally walked off the set because of they're being cheap on everything, right? Half the crew is sleeping on the ranch because they didn't want to drive 50 minutes after getting off at like 12:30 at midnight and having to come in at 4 in the morning. They didn't want to drive to Albuquerque. There was promised places in Santa Fe and they didn't get it. And so they just sleep there, right? And finally the camera crew had enough and they quit, right? And, but let me tell you who's in trouble here. Everyone. Okay. A lot of this focus is on the armorer. Okay. She's going to go down first. Okay. Then it's on the AD. He's going to go down next. Okay. And then after that, Baldwin's right in there. He can't play the I'm just an actor in this thing, right? And executive producer by title. He co-wrote the thing, right? He's involved in all the day-to-day. He is the ground level executive producer, right? AKA showrunner, but in film, right? So none of this, it's not like this stuff is a surprise. He knew people were complaining. He knew people were upset. He knew people weren't getting to sleep properly. And then this accidental firing of the weapon a couple of times, they hired this young girl that did not nearly qualified to be running all that, and then gave her 3 titles to be cheaper on top of that, right? So she's overwhelmed, right? And he can't escape that. You can play it off, well, I'm just the actor, I'm dependent. If he was just the actor, he'd get the lowest slap on the wrist, because he'd say there's 4 people above me that should have known better, even though he should have checked the weapon, right? He's the last in the line of this. Last in the line, and he didn't do it, right? But on top of it all, and then the one you're not hearing about yet is the director, because the director was shot behind, went through the cinematographer, hit him, and he's getting sympathy right now because he was hit. But I'm going to tell you right now, in a television series, most people don't know this, in a television series, the director is not important. They're a superfluous title.
Explain that, or please explain for the audience, including me, that wouldn't know what, tell us why.
Okay. In television, the producers govern, right? We're the controllers of the creative content and the vibe of the show and all this stuff in television, right? The director is literally a hired hand, right? They're there just to orchestrate and get through this episode, right? So you can have multiple episodes, you can have a director, like if you're like All in the Family or all these things, it was like literally a new director for every episode, okay? Because the director doesn't they're literally just orchestrating it, right? And keeping it organized, and we get through this thing. But who makes the creative call and the decisions is the producer level. Now, that being said, in film, it's just the opposite. In film, the most important person is the director, beyond the producers. The director it's their vision and and they make the call. Okay, so there's impossible that all these negative things are happening and this anger with the crew, and they're walking off the set and then being told if they don't get off set, the cops are going to be called. You don't do that without the director setting that perspective in place, right? So he's the linchpin in all this. Nobody's talking about it because he's getting the empathy because he was shot. But I'm going to tell you, as this stuff flushes out, that guy's going to be back in this mix because he is the quintessential top this, right? Then it would go down to the executives, the ground level executive producers, active producers. That would be Baldwin, right? So there's your 4 people, right? You got Baldwin, you've got the director, you've got your AD, which this guy's a ding dong, and then your armorer. And I can't blame the armorer. The thing is, people are so desperate to get in this industry, they take these roles on, right? And I don't want to say I don't want to blame her. She should have been checking her shit, okay? But what I'm saying is they brought in a seriously under-experienced armorer on a show that is going to be using shit tons of weaponry, right? And then on top of it all, be cheap asses They gave her 2 other titles, didn't give her any assistants, right, that can help control all this stuff. Again, on a show that is using fucking weapons. She's overwhelmed. Now, again, that's not an excuse. When you accept that job, then and you accept those terms, then you got to live up to them. But my point is, these shows are being cheap, and it's not have nothing to do with independent. Because independent film getting kicked in the ass right now. Oh, it's all independent. No, it's the investment method. It's the investment model that's causing this, right? These people are doing this investment model. Don't give an absolute crap about the quality of the show or what they're doing. They just want to get in as cheap as they can, hoping that something good comes out of it so they can maximize their profits. It's not like when a studio's investing or you got private investors in your film and everybody is rah, rah, rah. We want this to be the greatest film ever. These are people these producers that they had, they're not real producers. They arguably say they are, but they're not real producers. All they care about is the investment model and maximizing the money back to the investors under this model. But, this thing was bound to happen. They were cutting so many corners. This is just the most extreme. This is the most extreme thing, but something was going to happen. This is just the most extreme. I mean, I'd be relieved to be one of those camera crew guys who left the morning before, right? Because everybody was, I met, in fact, I was working on another film that's funded a totally different way, but similarly, that was up here at the ranch. Oh my Lord, an Anthony Sabato film. Oh my God. My proudest day was getting rid of them. But some of the crew that was on that came from the Rust production because, of course, their time got cut short and they jumped in from one frying pan into another. Well, these guys couldn't even pay people. It was ridiculous because of the investment model. But what happens is independent film gets kicked in the ass for this stuff. And now everybody's, independent film. No, man, there's a lot of great film out there. These are just not good. But yeah, the Rust thing had everybody on pins and needles. Everybody was, in fact, the Sabato film got rid of all their weaponry as a reaction, kind of a knee-jerk reaction to that. Not that it was any better. Oh, God, I'll never see that guy the same again. I'm going to be very frank with that. That guy is whatever. Here's the thing that's a red flag for me in any film. When the actors are in charge of the production as a producer or a director, which Sabato was, that's never a good sign. I call it trying to make your own work because enough work's not coming in, right? Never a good sign because you're not experienced. And these people weren't experienced. It was a damn nightmare for the people in New Mexico here. But they did get rid of all their weapons as a reaction to this. They were supposed to film over at Bonanza Creek. They ended up filming here under duress because and the reason why I let them is because a very influential friend of mine called me and was attached to the film and said, hey, would you mind helping him out? And I was willing to do it. But they didn't know what the hell they were doing either. That was pretty damn evident. But that's the problem, is when you're, trying to create work for yourself in this. And I know nobody likes to talk about this. I'm saying this, and you're probably the only person, Jeff, to hear something like this just raw off the cuff from a producer, right? But the fact of the matter is, when an actor is involved in being a director or being a producer, like a real producer, right? They're trying to create work for themselves. And it doesn't work out because actors are just not the same. You get a few, Ron Howard, right? You get a few that these people, they got behind that camera and started working it and they became more of a producer after that, right? And cinematographers. But most of them are really trying to create work for themselves in these low budget films, right? And that's just never good because it's not going to end well. This one didn't end well at all. I mean, I don't want to go into too many details, but it was horrific. And they ended up leaving the state and going and filming in Oklahoma and blaming everybody in the state of New Mexico for their problems, to which they had rightfully so. They did business with a very bad person. And I was called, I'm called to help them with the, give them a location. And then within a day, this thing is like a nightmare. And I get called again saying, Jay, can you come in and help them as a producer and straighten this all out? To which oh my God, I walked into a sea of. So
that's a lot different than just being the landlord, if that's what you are when they're using your dirt to make, yeah.
Right. I mean, you're renting the property, right? You're renting the property, but I am a producer and people call me to, even though I produce my own content, they call me to, usually to save something, right? Fix it, make it right. And I got called for this, and I went to talk about it, and it was seriously, the investment was just ridiculous. And while they did get screwed, that being the case, if you're telling people it's a $2.8 million budget, and again, knowing that the 0.8 is being burned off, not on the production, but people's pockets, right? I was like, how the hell do you step off of a plane and even organize a crew without having $2 million in the bank? They ended up burning through $500,000 in like 2 weeks and not shooting a thing. The only day they shot was on my property. It's the only day they actually shot, right? But then they're scrambling for money, and this magic suitcase is supposed to be driven here with cash, which is, I mean, surreal, right? I mean, use a wire transfer. I don't know why we have to wait on a magic suitcase being driven from California with cash. That just screams all sorts of, that's weird. And I don't like weird. My Fireball Run, which was a seriously complex show, operated in the general public with public involved, all this stuff shot in real time, right? We never had one incident. We just didn't, right? Because I'm not going to allow that. I make sure every T is crossed and I is dotted. I learned from Artie Malesi, my mentor, who's one of the biggest names in the stunt business. And Artie, when I asked him about, hey, how do I make how do I be a very safe product? Artie's like, here's what I do every day when I wake up on set, Jay. I think about what's the worst fucking thing that can happen today, and then I work backwards. And I've adhered to that. My insurance for they don't even insure. There's only 2 people that insure reality type shows in the first place. And it's expensive. Like, hell yeah. My insurance company, I pay $1,500 per season, which is unheard of because we've never had an incident and because of the safety protocols.
How much could it have been? I have no context to 1,500.
17 to 29 thousand. 17 to 29.
Okay. So you paid it no more than a tenth.
I'm paying nothing, but that's because we've never had an incident. Our protocols were solid. They wanted to see the protocols. And then, of course, after that, they feel more relaxed. You know, we're biological beings, right? It was meant to be that people are straight, just like animals, right? But we're a biological being, and things can get crossed in the hairs. And you can't fault people for that.
Well, because that even exists in the animal kingdom, as a matter of fact.
But it does. We're biological. Things don't always go well. That's why you got people with Down syndrome and different people people get cancer, right? Sometimes things go wrong, and we can't blame people for when things are not part of what people would call the mainstream norm. I don't fault anybody for that. And I want people to have happiness, and I want them to find love. And I don't care, as far as I'm concerned, as a grown adult, consensual adult, I don't really give a damn what you do, as long as you're not hurting someone, right? Or doing something against somebody's will. I really don't care. It's not my damn business. But what gets weird, the GLBT community, the government's record is that it's 10%. My argument is it's 20% of people are inclined or GLBT or bi or something like that, right? Which, again, that's fantastic. That's fine. But if you take that percentage, right, the folks that are like trans, right, that's less than 1% of that, okay? And I'm all about, look, I'm a minority. I get, minority needs to have a voice, but there has to come a time where if you're that much of a minority, we want to hear you, but we can't be changing all kinds of policies. It's like the kid that the other day, which really fucking pissed me off. They put flags on the grave sites of military members who had passed away, and some college dumbass goes in there and grabs all the flags and throws them in the garbage because he finds it offensive. The person was military. I mean, these are the things that really, it just, again, common sense, right? Why the hell are you doing it? And it's all for attention. Everybody wants to be a YouTube star and a blah, blah, blah and go viral and stuff, but we're doing it at a cost of hurting people. All right. In fact, this guy here at Mayor Bloomfield, New Mexico, when we were out there with the show, it's kind of funny this topic comes up, right? Man, Scott Eckstein. He's a good friend. I love the man. When we were filming out there, they had this statue of the 10 Commandments, and one person complained. One person. And now the ACLU and everybody's getting involved, and they're coming down on this small town about having the 10 Commandments, right? Hey, here's my thing, right? And I'm recovering Catholic, so I'm like agnostic at this point. I'm like, here's what I tell people about my religion. I believe in all of them, right? Because it's like, you remember watching the cartoon, the Super Friends, Superman, and Wonder Woman, they all come together and come evil. When shit goes hell like that, we're going to need them all. I need Allah. I need baby Horus. I need baby Jesus. I need them all, right? I need all of them. The Super Friends, because that's the only thing that's going to beat this shit. But, you know, we included in the show as part of the 10 Commandments. We've used them in the show that the contestants had to find them and something like da-da-da. As my kind of pushback, because, you know what, let's be honest. I mean, whether you're Christian or Catholic or whatever the hell, the 10 Commandments aren't exactly a bad set of rules, right? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal. Okay. All right. So let's, in the context of things, not a bad guideline for life, right? Taking all religion out of it, right? So I don't know what the deal is. And this town was just being besieged, this small town in New Mexico being besieged, and the mayor and everybody's coming down on him because this one person felt offended, right? And I'm like this, hey, you want to, look, you like Satan? Then let's make it equal for everybody. Just, you know, as long as you pay for your statue, we'll put the Satan statue in there, right? Who cares, right? Everybody gets equal opportunity. But because one person complains, and that's the society we're in right now, Jeff. One person complains, and everybody's got to ratify because of it, right? And we're not talking like a lynching people, right? I mean, how's the thing goes, some of my best friends are black. I just don't see color. I grew up in a state that doesn't have, New Mexico really doesn't see color because, well, we're a Hispanic state, right? So you really don't. And when I went to prom, my girlfriend was African American. I just don't see color, right? It just doesn't exist. I don't see color. I don't see men or women different leadership. Although I've been a part of many places that are a little bit too misogynistic, right? And it just blows me away. I don't see a difference in a female leader to a male leader. But you've got people that are coming up with these so micro. Right? I don't like the way you look wearing yellow. And now I don't want anybody to wear yellow. And it's like so out of hand. And, you know, the sad thing is there's no end in sight. That's the sad thing. But in Hollywood, you know, there's a lot of conservative people in Hollywood. And I want to say conservative in the sense that nobody adheres to I don't believe in party line alliance because there's plenty not to like about the Republican Party. And none of these effers care about you. Anybody who thinks that either Democrats, they care about me, or the Republicans, they care about me. You're fooling yourself.
But you know who does care about you? DeSantis.
You know what, though? I freaking love that guy. That guy is going to run for president, and he's going to win. Here's what he is. He's Trump without the drama. He's a business guy. He understands, he wouldn't shut that state down. This state here in New Mexico, this ding ding out here, she's shutting everything down. This state only has so many industries. New Mexico, oil, tourism, right? That's all we got, right? And the federal government. We have a governor here that was hell-bent on effing up that's the problem with New Mexico.
I think he got a nice turquoise jewelry trade, but I don't know where that is.
Okay, here, let me give you some truth, okay, on that. Just funny sidebar, right? Funny sidebar. Okay, so turquoise jewelry, which is, turquoise is like everybody, the Southwest is all about the turquoise, right? Watch this. In the gemstone grades, as a gemstone, Southwest turquoise is the lowest grade.
I didn't know.
Yeah, right? China has the highest grade as a gemstone. Not New Mexico particularly, but Southwest is the lowest grade. Just so happens my friend owns the Turquoise Museum and is the definitive person that grades the turquoise. So if Argentina comes up with a turquoise, they send it to him to grade it. And so you're like, whoa. I was like, whoa, what? For all the brainwashing I've had? He's like, yeah, it's the lowest grade of his gemstone. He says the thing that makes it valuable is the art piece that the Native American puts into it.
Okay, well, you got that. Okay.
Right. But isn't that funny, right? People are buying turquoise. Ooh, this comes out of the blah, blah, blah mine shaft. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? You know, it's hilarious.
No, that's unbelievable. So you spent some time in Lakeland.
Yeah. It's a few years.
Did you know that the very first, since I had the founder of Red Lobster on as a guest, did you know the very first Red Lobster was in Lakeland, 1974?
Darden, yeah. Knew a lot about the Darden. Darden was a client of my agency.
I don't know Darden, and this was a partner of the founder, Charlie Woodsby, who's the Charlie of Charlie's Steakhouse out in Orlando and in Tampa.
That's awesome. You know what? Florida's got just some great, if it wasn't so damn humid and packed, you know, and I can't say I was.
But that's why my skin's so supple. It's wet all the time.
Oh, like when I lived out there, all my friends from high school, oh my God, so awesome. You live in the tropics. I said, screw that. Let me tell you what people from Florida, we don't go outside. People from Florida, here's what we do. We live in an air-conditioned box. Then we take a motorized air-conditioned box to another air-conditioned box. And that's how we live our lives. Ain't none of us going to the beach because we're all like, oh, hell no with that stuff. The beach stuff gets old after a few times. And you're just like, oh, this is kind of hot out here. And the mosquitoes. Luckily out here, I don't have mosquitoes.
Oh, you don't have mosquitoes? Okay.
We don't have mosquitoes. And I love it. I mean, the weather in Santa Fe is phenomenal. Right? It's not like Arizona, which I don't know how those people live out there. I got plenty of friends in Arizona, the chamber president of Mesa Area Chamber of Commerce, good friend. And I'm like, it was hilarious. Okay, so we had the show, was filming in Mesa. And I was big at that point during the show, you know, you're big on working out. So I got up early in the morning before we go out to our scouting stuff, get up. It's like, no, I'm going to do a little jog, right? Going to do my jogging. And I leave the Marriott and I'm waving at these guys, you know, the people at the front, leave me in with a bottle of water, I go out, I'm like this is like at 7:30 in the morning. 3 minutes in, I didn't even get to the end of the hotel. And I came right back in. I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking crazy. And I'm dying because I know these bastards over there at that Marriott were betting on like, oh, let's see how long this shit lasts. Right. And, I came right. It's too freaking hot. But New Mexico's, you know what's neat about New Mexico is that we don't have any natural disasters, period. We just don't have them. We don't have earthquakes. We don't have tornadoes. We don't really have any natural disasters. It's beautiful out here. You just have to be willing to deal with the fact that it is absolutely ass backwards when it comes to business.
I want to know what someone would be surprised to know about you.
I can weld.
You can weld. All right, that's it. There's a clip. And do you have any more?
Well, no, here's the thing. So, you know, people only know you for the environment that you're in, right? So folks in Orlando, which I've been there forever, right? That's like, to me, that's more of a hometown than New Mexico is, right? Because I was here till 18 and then I left and built my career out there. And I lived a, you know, good kind of, not going to lie, high society life, right? Lived in the Dr. Phillips area, had a very nice place. You know, my daily driver was a 76 Rolls Silver Wraith 2. And it's not that they're, you know, let me put it this way. Is it as valuable as a brand new Phantom? No. But once you park the two next to each other, nobody takes a picture of the Phantom. They're all about the classic Rolls, right?
Plus the maintenance. You know, 10 years in, you bought a Phantom anyway.
That's the other part, okay? Which I learned, Monty Patterson, who was, you know, with Rolls-Royce for Orlando and all these things, and Monty was he was a mentor to me, right? When I got this thing, Monty flipped a gasket. He flipped a gasket. Why the hell would you buy that without consulting me, But I was a young guy. Look at me, I'm trying to be my own person, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? He said, let me tell you, you should have just bought a damn new one. because what you pay in maintenance is going to be per year. You could have bought a new one. And I'm going to tell you right now, he was absolutely right.
$5,000 a year if nothing goes wrong, right or wrong?
No, higher, 12.
Okay, 12 G's a year. And it was steering racks, suspension spheres, brake accumulators, and...
Yeah. It was, and I had to go through 3 mechanics before I found a good one. This guy, Jeff Davis in Orlando. This guy is freaking awesome. I'd tell my friends they'd ship their Rolls-Royces from Manhattan, wherever, to get it done by Jeff. Honest dude. Great guy. I mean, always tried to find the best way. The mechanic before that, we have problems with the thing, right? And I'm like, man, I'm an F-15 crew chief. Okay. So at the end of the day, I'm actually a mechanic. All right. It either works. It's a mechanical object. Okay. There's no computer in it. It's a mechanical. It either works or it doesn't. This guy, I'm not going to give his name, but I sued him, and about a few others did sue him. He's like, oh, you just got to whack it with the stick every once in a while. And I'm like, so you're telling me when Rolls-Royce gave this to the Queen, they told her to whack it with the stick, right? Because the carburetor system is the absolute worst on that thing. That's your downfall. I have a friend who's a German engineer who engineered a new type of carburetor bracket that allowed me to put a 4-barrel Edelbrock on it, and it worked fantastically. But it was an adapter. That means if I want to switch it back out to the original Rolls stuff, you want to be a purist there, but I wanted a car that worked, right? But that's the only thing I did that was not original.
Well, at least you didn't put a 350 in the car, so that's okay.
Oh, God, no. You know what? Even my dad said that. He's like, why don't you just put a blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, well, then, Dad, it wouldn't be a Rolls. You can't do that.
Do you know about the 3 positions on an English light switch?
No, go ahead and tell me.
Off, dim, and flicker.
Makes sense. But I love these old Rolls and Bentley. They're so classic.
Is there anything more about welding in any of this?
Oh, yeah.
Just
okay,
asking.
so... yeah, we do it totally
asking.
on a tangent, brother. It's the ADD. So when people know you, right, Jeff, I know you only from this world, the world that you're in, right? So sometimes you take people and pop them in a different world and folks can't see it. Most people could not see, especially being a producer, right, that they just can't imagine me being in the military. They're like, whoa, I mean, Jay actually taking... But I learned a lot in the military on how to run my business, right? And how not to run a business. But when I said I was going to move out here, I think you could have heard a pin drop from all my friends, right? They're like, what? And then I'm going to build a movie ranch and I'm going to do it myself. You know how to build? And it's hilarious. I had people while I'm doing this stuff going, Jay, there's such a thing as, why don't you just hire somebody to do it? And I said, but it's not creative like that. I'm a creative guy. But my dad restored classic automobiles, and I learned a lot from my dad. All not to be afraid of tools. Little sparks aren't going to burn you. But my dad was a typical Hispanic dad. The sparks are flying. Don't, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to kill you. Even though the sparks are flying right into you and burning you out. He's like, that's not going to kill you. Stop being a baby. And so I've learned that, right? So I learned to weld, and things like this. So when I'm out here, people are like, whoa, you can weld? I'm like, what? I didn't say I can weld good. I just said I can weld.
How about something you'd like us to know about you?
I don't know. I'm a nice guy. Right?
He's nice, folks.
Well, I'm just that personality. You either like me or you absolutely hate me. There's literally no median with me.
I don't know who couldn't like you, man. I mean, unless I'm in a different context.
But I'm loyal. I'm very dedicated to folks, thanks to the military. If you're on my side, I'll stand right there with you as you're getting shot. On the other hand, if you try to screw me over, I don't forget. And I'm a very patient guy.
Okay. We've been together over 2 hours now. How does it feel?
Doesn't even feel like 2 hours. We're just talking to friends.
Because earlier when you were a big shot producer with a young punk with a new YouTube channel asking you for a thing, you're like, how long's it going to be?
Yeah. No.
How long's it going to be?
I'm playing.
Can I put you down for 45? Maybe I'll give you an hour.
You know what? Also, I got to give myself room to bail out.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.